Welcome to the Empty Nester Live podcast. I'm Mark.
And I'm Jackie.
And we're excited that you are here today. We have a episode today that's right up our alley. It's about real estate.
It is about real estate. In fact, today what we're going to be talking about is buying a home in a different state, because there's a lot to know about that.
And we did this, so we feel like we have pretty decent insight on this topic.
Yep. Now, I'm sorry, as always, whenever we jump into a real estate topic, I do have to disclose fully that we are both licensed agents with eXp Realty, Tate Real Estate Group, and we concentrate on northern and central Arizona. Did I get my disclaimer out?
I think that's good. It's always good to know. We have got a lot of years, decades of experience in real estate, so maybe we can help you a little bit.
Yeah, so this is...
That's the hope anyway.
That's the hope. So yeah, I mean, to Mark's point, we went through this ourselves. Mm-hmm. And as agents who make our full-time living as real estate agents, we still hired a real estate agent because state to state is very different.
Yeah, we bought and we sold 2 houses within like a couple of years in Texas. So we got a pretty good baptism there on how much different it was between here and Arizona. And there was quite a bit of difference. There was some similarities, obviously, but it was quite a bit different. The contract was way different.
Well, let's start with, why did we decide to buy in Rockport, Texas?
Well, because I didn't want to fly all the way to Florida to get out of the Flagstaff weather. I mean, that was really part of it. I was like, Texas seems like the natural place, you know, Gulf of America, you know, be in that area. It's warmer in the winter. Get out of, you know, we're at 7,000 feet in Flagstaff. Get out of 7,000 feet and the snow and the cold. And we have legit 3-4 months here. It's winter.
Yeah, and that was the goal. And of course, if you've followed along on our journey, you may have already heard this, but for those of you who are new to our channel, we bought our house in Rockport, Texas in 2020, the fall of 2020. So we were still in the midst of COVID lockdowns and things like that, because prior to checking out Texas, we were going to buy in a place called Rocky Point, Puerto Penasco, Mexico. So now all of a sudden you can't get back and forth over the border. It became this whole thing. So that's why Texas.
I would say that was probably top of the list, but you know, we still hadn't made any decisions. We were in this discovery phase.
Yeah, we were dreaming.
Yeah, we were dreaming.
So when we went from dreaming phase to reality phase, that's kind of how that worked out. So
we're going to talk about a little bit right now about like why go to another state at all. Just maybe do something different within your state, which you absolutely positively could do. It makes a lot of sense. You can maybe drive there.
Well, the thing too that we have to remember, while we did our experience for a vacation home that we also used as an investment property, this episode is going to be very relevant for you if you're looking at packing up and moving your primary location. Maybe you have been in one area all your life. You raised the kids. Now the kids have dispersed. They're all going to college in different places, or they all got jobs somewhere else, and you're no longer tied to the same location. So maybe it's time to pack it up and move out completely.
My dad always dreamed of moving to Arizona. And in 1977, we did. Yeah, we started in Minnesota, Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Kansas, and then we got to Arizona. So it was kind of a dream. You may have a dream that I always wanted to live somewhere. And the other part of the whole dream process is just change in something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's part of the dream process. You only have one life on this planet, right? So maybe you say, okay, we're going to cast caution into the wind, I believe they say, and we're going to boldly go where no man has gone before, which is Star Trek. So I've got a lot of good euphemisms going on there.
Here we go. I'm loving it. So,
live long and prosper.
Nanu?
Yeah, I don't know. Sure. Oh, yeah.
I don't even know how to do
Mork
that.
and Mindy. Nice.
Mork and Mindy.
Nice.
Come on.
Genius.
Anyway.
I like it.
All right. So some common motivators we already mentioned. The kids have dispersed themselves across different locations. And so maybe you want to move to be close to one or more of your kids. Maybe they are starting to have grandbabies and you want to be involved.
And we wanted to get away from our kids.
That's not true.
It's not true at all. We were excited to maybe put down, not necessarily all of our roots anywhere, but put down, buy something, and then they could come and see us. And we're excited to kind of share the experience because it exposes them to new cultures and new cities and new food and new experiences. And that actually happened in Rockport.
It did.
We ended up buying a couple of houses in Rockport, like Jackie said, starting in 2020. Then a couple of years later, we bought a stilt home, which was really cool. We sold the first house, and then we had that for like a year and a half, and then we decided, oh my gosh, it's so far away, 1,200 miles, and we started getting phone calls, business phone calls, and it was just, we were still working, and we just felt like, oh, that doesn't really work very well. So we ended up, and we can either talk about it this video or another video, we ended up with a second home that's south of us here that it kind of achieves the same goal, but there's no water. And water was your big thing. You wanted
I'm
the
like,
water.
There's water in the house.
There's no water. There's no ocean.
There's no ocean or Gulf, but there is the Verde River.
The Verde River.
Which is close by, but that's a topic for another day. So there's a lot of different motivators. We wanted, like you said, a vacation home, a getaway. We also knew we would use it as an investment property when we weren't in residence, so it was also an investment strategy at the same time. Some other common motivators are obviously the weather. How many times? You've already mentioned Florida. We've already talked about Texas.
Sunbelt.
We live in Arizona, so we get clients like this all the time who are like, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm done with the Chicago winters and the crazy weather and the 3 nice days a year. And then on those nice days, you got mosquitoes and bees. And
clouds, I'm done. 360 days a year.
So, that could be a thing. And you could want to just pack it up and move it out. Or maybe you're in a position now where you're looking at, hey, we don't want to move our primary residence, but we do want to get a house where we can get away from the winters and become what is commonly known as snowbirds, where you fly south for the winter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably really common. Obviously, it's based a lot on your budget. What's your budget going to allow you to do? And it's okay if you're like, hey, I can sell this house. I've been steady Eddie in this house, paying on this mortgage, and I got good equity, and I can move this equity somewhere else, or buy some cash and live off some of that. So those are all super good strategies for sure.
Definitely. Well, and another reason, we've already talked about grandkids and kids and being close to family, because family has morphed elsewhere. But another thing are tax benefits. Everything varies state to state, and that's why we thought we really want to do this topic specifically. Now, we're not talking about moving to a different country. At some point you got to focus it in. We're just talking about a different state within the United States of America.
The emotional side is something that we definitely need to talk about. I will tell you this though, don't feel guilty about it. It's your life. I think you have maybe the right, you're an American, that you can make these decisions. You don't have to feel guilty about them. It's your life. If somebody's like, well, I can't believe that you would consider moving out of state or moving away because we got the grandkids and stuff like that. Listen, you can visit. They can visit. It might even make it more special. It might.
It might. You really do. You have to, again, I think it goes back to you only have one life to live. So if you're dreaming of moving away somewhere, I know my parents moved to Arizona from Chicago. I was only 15. They weren't quite empty nesters, but both my brother and sister they'd moved out, they were married, they had kids. And so I know it wasn't the easiest decision, but with what my dad did for a living, it was a necessary change for him. And so here we came. And I know they wrestled with some guilt about that, being far away from the grandkids and whatever. But in the end of the day, it became this great getaway for the grandkids. They were young enough during the summer. My brother or sister, they'd ship their kids out and they would just hang out at grandma and grandpa's. They had a pool, and
that was the summer.
That was the summer, and my parents loved it. And so, you make new ways to connect and new ways to make memories.
So the big takeaway there is move someplace that's warm that has a pool, and you're good.
And the takeaway is have a pool.
They'll get shipped to you.
I mean, there you
That's
go.
the takeaway.
Episode over.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Where's the fork? Stick a fork in it.
Oh,
Yeah, the fork.
I was trying to pick that up.
Yeah, I
okay. Gotcha.
I like our outline. We're talking also about having this idea of navigating as a couple, because you could have differing views on what this last third or last half of your life looks like, and so I think you gotta have to sort of figure that out. I mean, we just sort of like had the same vision. We didn't really have like a real defined, detailed vision. The bedrooms have to be in the front and one in the back and that sort of thing. Our vision was warm, was water, and within our budget, kind of within our budget sort of thing. And so that's also important too. A little bit about the place that you're talking about going to, maybe a little bit about the budget. I'll mention every now and then, you want to go to Hermosa Beach in California. I mean, you need to have several $1 million, and maybe you do, several $1 million if you want to buy something there, to buy something in Hermosa Beach, several million. If you want to be on the water, it's $25 or $35 million to be on the water in, 3,000 feet. So, we knew that Texas prices were actually realistic and within our size, the size of our budget.
Yes, everything he just said. He just gave you 35 million reasons why we didn't choose Hermosa.
Yeah.
as our locale.
Yeah. I mean, there's other reasons
there's
too.
There's pros and cons no matter where you go, but sometimes here's the reality of it is if you're moving full time, then it really is something you need to dig into as a couple to figure out where you're going. Maybe though, you're going to split time between two places, in which case maybe you're going to sell your house where you've been for the last 40, 50 years and pack up and move out, and you go, what if we bought a little place in the mountains and a little place on the beach and we split our time? So now the emotional thing in navigating the change becomes, well, where's your home base? Where do you consider your primary community?
Maybe where you spend most of your time.
Where are you going to spend most of your time? Where are you going to register to vote? Where are you going to call home for tax purposes, for driver's license purposes, insurance purposes, all that kind of stuff. So these are the conversations that if this is something you're considering, you need to have together as a couple, and what we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into, because it's not just as simple as, hey, what we did, hey, we want to be by the beach. We want to be by the water. Texas sounds great. High five, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, Texas, great state. We knew it was a great state.
Well, they're all great in there, but it met the goals we needed. And
in my mind, again, this is the differing thing. In my mind, it was greater than others.
So there you go.
That was, because they had the water. I mean, there's a lot of states, they're landlocked.
Yep.
But they had the water in Texas.
Well, and I think that brings us really, truly to the point that I wanted to kind of hone in on a little bit, is that it's important not just to talk about what kind of house you want or what kind of climate you want, but what does your lifestyle what does that lifestyle look like? What are you going to do with your days? How are you going to build community? How are you going to plug in? Because that's important.
What's going to change the house?
It does. Yeah.
It'll change your needs in a house.
If you are wanting to kind of just get like a nice little 1-bedroom condo getaway, and you go, you know what, nobody's going to come and visit us necessarily. When they do, we can, get the rental unit down the hall or whatever. or
we'll put them up the Four Seasons.
You are a generous host, I will say. But you see what I'm saying? Or do you want a place where everybody can gather and you have a large home with lots of bedrooms, even though it's just the two of you, so that when people come and visit, they can all stay with you? All of that is going to go into consideration. Do you need a hobby room? Do you need a home office? For our situation, we were still working. And so you had to have a place to work out of home, which I had fun with.
Yeah, and if mountains are your thing, you just want to go hide out in the mountains. You're not really worried about the whole social aspect. Okay.
Yeah.
You're more of a fishing person. You're a hunting person. You always wanted that cabin in the woods. They exist. They exist. Again, what's your budget? And understand what your budget, understand what you can actually buy. But you might be the hideout person, or you might be, the social butterfly that wants to play bingo every Monday night and on Fridays and on Saturdays. And that's what you want to do. You want to go down to the VFW and hang out with the boys and the girls. I don't know what you want to do, but these are all questions you have to ask yourself.
Those are all questions you have to ask, which actually brings us into building the community. You mentioned the VFW, and one of our points is to look for clubs or different meetup
bingo
community.
and the VFW.
Well, here's the thing. When you move into a new place, you do need to plug in. You don't have the shared history. You don't have the fact that, my kid went to that high school and so did yours and that type of thing, and you've known each other for a while. You're learning everything new. And so that is something that is really important, to make sure you're plugging into different social communities. If you're still working and you get a new job, of course you're going to meet coworkers and things like that. But really for us, like when we moved to Flagstaff, the number one thing I said is we've got to get involved with first we have to pick a church. Number two, we have to get involved with a small group at church. And I think that was the best decision we made for making community.
Well, yeah, and our friends here are not all go to Grace, but most of them do.
Yeah.
And they're really close friends, and we have this commonality, and we believe in Jesus, and that's a good thing. So it's that's half the fun. I think you have to evaluate who you are. I like meeting new people. I may have mentioned before I was in 3 different high schools. Not that I got thrown out of 3 different high schools. I was in 3 different high schools in 3 different states. So I do understand the whole moving thing. You sort of have to kind of turn into a little bit of the mayor, a little bit if you want to create a social network and be outgoing to a certain extent. You don't have to be like the mayor. You don't have to be the mayor, but to just be someone who's open to new experiences, new people, new events. Every state does stuff a little different.
Well, let's stay focused here on like what type of events. So we've mentioned church, but there's other things you could do. You mentioned VFW, bingo nights. There are seasonal clubs. There's gardening clubs. There's book clubs. There's golfing. There's pickleball.
There's biking clubs.
Honestly, we've made a good community just because we love to play pickleball. So
there is. You kind of basket weaving, whatever it is, it's going to be out there. Facebook has it. Okay, I'll tell you, there are groups on Facebook, local groups on Facebook, and you can meet people. And all it takes is a little bit of energy.
Yep.
It's going to take some energy.
And I would say, too, that it's equally as important if you're going to be splitting your time between 2 different states or communities, that you build community in those new places as well. You may think, because you have your primary home, that when you go to your second home, that really it's more about just hanging out with the 2 of you and maybe having some family or friends come and visit. But it can get lonely fast. So it is important to, whether it's a faith community or an interest-based community or anything like that. And it can just be meeting your neighbors and hanging out with neighbors.
Just be intentional.
Yep.
Be intentional. If you're intentional about meeting people, but having common interests, that's nice, right? So now you have something to talk about. So it sounds simple, and it is, but understand that if you're trying to put yourself into a biker, the guys ride Harleys. Cool, ride Harleys. You don't have a Harley. Never owned a motorcycle. Probably the shoe doesn't fit.
Right.
Jackie, at the very least, buy a T-shirt that says the Bearcats, which is the local high school team in the community that you moved to, and you look like you fit in. Oh, you support the Bearcats? Yeah. Bearcats go, Bearcats go, Bearcats. Right?
No. Oh. Okay. So let's talk about the logistics. let's talk about the logistics of buying in a new state.
Yeah.
Now, first thing that we are going to recommend is find a good real estate agent in the area you want to move to.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to want someone with local knowledge and someone who's actually done some business in that area, lives in the area. understands the ins and out of neighborhoods, because it's about neighborhoods, right? Just like, well, what do you tell me about what your needs are, and they'll be able to kind of in town say, well, half the town's gonna be perfect for you, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, things like that. Or, there's only so much you can get from doing research on sites like Zillow or Redfin or Realtor.com.
Yep.
You can find out a lot about houses, but you can't find a lot about community. Also, you can learn a lot. You can see houses and think that it might be great, but you might not understand some of the specific needs that are going to be crucial to the area. One example, when we moved to Texas, is the one house that we had on the stilts that was close to the water also had hurricane shutters installed. And I think we're in Arizona. What do we know about hurricanes?
Did not know about hurricane shutters, but we learned they're highly important.
Yeah, we learned they're important. We learned they're expensive. And we learned it was really nice that we had found a house that already had them installed.
Yeah, you lose a window, by the way, in a hurricane, your house is going to get destroyed. So yeah, you need shutters, or you got to board up your house.
So I would say look for an agent not only who is very well versed in the community, but who is also well versed in working with people from out of town. So I know for me personally, most of my business, I help people with either vacation homes or relocating. So most of my clients live somewhere else. They're not just down the street and, hey, let's hop in a car and go look at a house. So when I work with them, it's really important that we discuss, well, what does the process look like? If you find a house, well, you're in another state and you find one you're really excited about, I go and I do a video tour, and I'm very intentional about what that video tour is like, so that they see what, I stand at the end of the driveway and do a 360 so they see everything around them. And then I talk to them about things that when we're in the house, maybe you can't see on a video, like how does the house smell? How does it feel? Things like that. So working with an agent who has experience like that, I think is really important.
Well, I mean, there are people that's what they do. They specialize in relocations. I'm talking about real estate agents, and Jackie does a lot of relocation stuff. I've done a lot of relocation stuff over the years. I mean, it should be a piece of most real estate agents' business, but some do it better than others. So I would, pick 3 agents out, in maybe an area, and just have a conversation with them. You don't need a long conversation, and somebody maybe you gel with. Maybe they just feel like they could be a friend or something like that.
And I'm going to just say this right now, is that if you want a list of different questions that you can ask an agent while you're interviewing them, I'm going to post a link below where you can download that. I think that's really helpful. We can't really get into all of that right now, but I think that would be really helpful if that's something you're looking to do. Don't try and go it alone, though, because, I don't recommend people try to go it alone if you're just buying a house on the other side of town, let alone in a completely different state. Because, again, laws vary. There's different potential pitfalls and things that you need to look out for, and always making sure you've got proper disclosures and things like that.
Well, so the discussion comes back to money. Am I saving money if I'm trying to go it alone, or I found a little FSBO on the, for sale by owner on the corner, and now I'm going to just try and do this deal? Unless you've really been guided with comps and local knowledge, you really don't know what you're buying. So that's what the real estate agent brings to the table. And like I said, we bought and sold 2 houses in Texas. We used a real estate agent on 4 different transactions. We paid a real estate agent, and we do it all over again.
100%.
Do it all over again.
It's worth their weight in gold. So anyway,
they're professional.
Yep. So that's obviously, and I know you may be watching going, well, they are real estate agents. Of course, they're biased. But it's because we are real estate agents, we see a lot of the pitfalls, a lot of the things that can go wrong if you don't have somebody watching out for you. And it comes back to, you don't know what you don't know.
Well, let me just say this, just on the side as an illustration. I was looking at a transaction I closed about a week ago. Yay! And there were 37 different possible forms that had to be filled out by both sides, for the most part, within this thing called SkySlope. 37 different forms had to be uploaded. Now, did I have to upload all 37? No, but probably 30 or 28. So there's a lot of stuff going on in a real estate transaction, and a lot of negotiations that happen even after you've figured out the price that are happening. It's literally negotiations for the first 15 or 20 days. That is what you're doing. Even all the way down to the walkthrough, it could be a negotiation process.
Yeah, it's a good point. And also, when you're going state to state, different states handle closings differently. Some states still have it where you have to physically show up to the closing table, and the buyer's there and the seller's there and your attorneys are there and your agents are there, and it's a whole big party. Other states, like in Arizona, we're an escrow state, so you don't have to physically be there. In fact, somebody can physically come to you to get your documents notarized, and everything can get handled. And so everything can get handled remotely, and then you just get the keys when you come into town, kind of thing. So all of that stuff is important to really know.
It's true.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Speaking of traveling for closings, what about traveling to shop for a house?
I recommend it. But, you know, there are, especially during COVID, people were buying houses online. And when I say online, they were researching online, contacting real estate agents, and buying homes. And they're buying them with videos. And
I think that has changed a lot of things. I will say that because of the lockdowns, a lot of things changed. And those things that changed for the better, that made it easier for you to really research a house, I think is more common now between agents. So like I know for us, with our listings, we always do professional photos, but we also always do 3D tours and video tours. So you can really, if you like a house, you can really kind of dig through it. You can use your mouse to kind of walk around the house and see if you like the floor plan and the layout and things of that nature. And
the reason to do that, knowing that people are really relying on the Zillows and the Realtor.coms of the world to research and in some cases actually buy real estate. So that's why if you're seeing a house online and it has 4 fuzzy pictures, run, run.
Can I just say, I have a client,
run.
True story, this just happened. They live out of town, and a house came on the market and it only had 6 cell phone videos, and they were very like, you can't really tell what's going on there.
Is that the bathroom or bedroom, or is that the kitchen?
Well, and so they said, hey, can you just go check this out? I go, yeah, I'll go and I'll do a video tour for you. And it was like, as soon as I walked in, I 100% knew, like, because they're not looking for a project, and this house was a project, which is why the photos were vague. And so I always tell people a lot of times when agents post vague photos, they're vague for a reason. And like you said, probably not going to get better in person.
Well, and I'm a big smells guy. Like if I walk into a house and it smells objectionable to me, just throw some stuff. Pet odor. Smoke is a problem. Musty. Moldy. They haven't had a window open in 14 years. That sort of thing. Old. The carpet's 30 years old. They never replaced the carpet. You can tell all these things. I can walk in blind and tell you a lot about a house. I can walk in blind. Now, I've got a sniffer on me, and that matters to me, and it should matter to you.
It should. So here's what I will encourage you is to know when you find a house and you want to put in an offer, what does that look like? If you find that right house, your agent goes, you've watched, you did all the walkthrough tours, and your agent went and did a video tour and told you how it smelled and all of that good stuff, and you want to put in an offer without hopping on a plane, because you go, I really don't want to get on the plane until I know if we're going to be able to lock this down and negotiate and things like that.
And there might be a couple, 2, 3 properties that might be in your purview you're kind of looking at. So maybe
right. But let me finish that thought in terms of, if you find that right house, ask your agent, what does it look like in that state? what are your exit clauses? Can you put in an offer and negotiate it and know that you can then go and view the house and have an exit clause? We have in the state of Arizona, traditionally you get a 10-day inspection period. That varies, it's negotiable, but that's the norm. And during that period of time, if you were to come out and do your inspections and things like that and come see the house, and all of a sudden you're just like, no, it just, something about it doesn't feel right, or whatever the case is, you can get out of that contract, get your earnest money back. But in other states, you can't do that.
So speaking of inspection periods, let's just talk about the difference in contracts in between states.
Absolutely. And by all means, we are experts in the Arizona contract. We have enough knowledge about the Texas contract to know it's very different, and we would never try to fill one out on our own. And other states, that we have never purchased in, we have no idea. So we can't necessarily tell you what the differences are state to state, but we can tell you some of the key points that could vary state to state.
Yeah, and your agent, you're not going to be able to say to them, oh, well, tell me how much different you are than, let's just say Texas and yours, Arizona, because you just bought a house and now you're going, they're not going to know the difference.
Right.
That's why you need a local agent.
That's why you need a local agent. They are licensed in that state. They're experts in their state law, but they don't necessarily know the other 49. So what's important, though, is to talk to them about contingencies. Contingencies is going to be a big thing. And a good way to ask that is, what are the contingencies that need to be met in this contract? Things like a due diligence period, financing contingencies.
Seller disclosures are contingencies.
Disclosures. Appraisals. Did you know, and I didn't know this, but appraisals are handled very differently state to state. There are some states where if your property doesn't appraise, you don't have an out clause.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You just pay the difference.
Who knew?
Or whatever. We don't know.
Or you lose your earnest money.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Ouch.
So,
that's a badly written contract. It's not pro buyer.
In our opinion, because we
not
do
pro buyer.
Yeah, we do business in Arizona where you do have an appraisal contingency. Now you can waive that, and that's a different story. But yeah, so it's really important to ask about the contingencies. Also, ask about home inspections. What types of home inspections are needed?
Yeah, what are you guys doing here? Are you even doing radon? Are you even doing termites? What are you doing or not doing in this area?
As an agent, they should know what is typical and standard in the area. But also, I will tell you, if it's a material fact to you, get an inspection. It's worth the couple of $100 or a few $100 for an additional.
$1,000 or $1,000. You can spend $1,000 on if you do, let's say, a physical home inspection, and then you throw in a radon, you throw in a termite, you throw in a roof inspection. That's the best money you could spend, because now you really understand what this house is all about, and you can say to yourself, is that risky or not risky? Maybe you're looking at something that you're ready to go in and just you're all fireballed up about, tweaking this house and putting in cabinets and countertops, and you're not worried about the drip under the sink. Maybe there's a little bit of black stuff underneath there, called mold, that sort of thing. You're not worried about, because you're ripping it all out. You see what I'm saying? So I would. I'm all about, I like the inspection thing, because I'll tell you the other thing too. If you're being represented well, your buyer agent should be really about inspections and making sure there's complete due diligence in the contract for you. Exactly.
So that's exactly kind of what my point is like each individual inspection can cost a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. It does add up, and you can spend $1,000, $1,500 to $2,000 for inspections up front. But the money you can save if it alerts you to a major problem that either A, you can negotiate with the seller to repair, or else you're out kind of thing, or just knowing that, okay, that is going to be an expense I'm going to have to take on right away. And if you know about it and you're going in with eyes wide open, then you're budgeting for it, instead of being like, I think once we close, I'm going to go buy that $20,000 sofa I've been dreaming about having, because you may need that $20,000 for a roof.
you're connected. The house you're looking at is connected to a sewer, but there's 45 trees between the sewer line and your house. You probably should have that sewer line scoped. Run a camera through that. Again, your agent will probably say that, we have a lot of problems where we have the roots get into these, drains. Mm-hmm. And so we should probably scope it. So there's a lot of different inspections you could do.
A lot of different ones. So just be able to talk to that.
This is a biggie, Jackie. Insurance. You don't think about insurance. You think about the price of the house and how cute it looks on the curb. But insurance has really become a big deal. It
really has, and especially if you're looking at purchasing in an area that has different things such as hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and wildfires.
A lot of insurance costs now, and you may end up with more than one policy.
You may end up with more than one policy, which is what we were surprised about when we purchased in Texas, because in Arizona, we had one policy, one and done.
So in Texas, we had a homeowner's policy if a tree falls on your house, right? We also had flood insurance, the surge from the hurricane, and then the hurricane. So you got to have wind and hail and that kind of...
It's called windstorm.
Windstorm insurance. But anyway, there was 3 policies. You literally cut a check every year for 3 policies, or your mortgage company will cut a check, and then that'll be part of your impounds.
Right.
So it's a big deal. It's a big chunk of money, even on in Texas, $500,000 house in Texas with those 3 policies. You're looking at $4,000, $5,000 a year for something like that. And we're just talking about Texas. Obviously, we're covering the whole United States here in terms of just in general, but that was just in Texas.
Well, in some states that we know they're having issues in are Florida and California. And I know that California has some kind of a government policy as a backup if you can't get. So, and again, that is literally the extent of my knowledge on that. So make sure you're talking to your California-based real estate agent for that. And in Arizona, in northern Arizona, we are seeing wildfires increase. And so our homeowners insurance has gone up due to that.
You'll find you're going to want to get into this during your inspection period.
Yes.
Because it's a big deal. Let's say your inspection period is 10 or 15 days. Within that 10 to 15 day window, make sure you get on the phone with a couple of insurance agencies. In fact, you will find that insurance agencies actually have quite varying rates. So make sure you get a quote from at least 2, if not 3 different insurance companies.
Yep, good point.
Yep.
One last thing I want to hit on, and I know we talked about property taxes earlier, but we didn't talk about our other tax implications. I think it's really important that if you are going to be buying a house in another state, that you're talking to not just a real estate agent in that state, but also get yourself a good accountant, a CPA in that state as well.
Okay, what are you going to talk to the accountant about?
Well, there's some depends. If you have, let's say you're trying to draw from your retirement account, well, you need an accountant who understands multi-state policies and things like that. So this is all just stuff that's really important. So our recommendation there is not just to have your real estate agent who's an expert in that state, but you might need to find a new accountant in your new location, or make sure your accountant has a good, solid knowledge of multi-state policies and things like that. Because if there's one thing I know, you don't want to get in trouble with the IRS.
I never even thought about that. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Because you never know. It could affect your, and also your Medicare, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It could affect all that kind of sort of stuff. So I'd make a phone call or 2.
Well, yeah, and I think speaking of Medicare, that's a good point too, because if you are moving states, you have to redo a lot of different aspects of your, obviously you've got to get a new driver's license. You have to register your car in your new state.
Register to vote.
You have to register to vote in your new state.
Yeah.
And then your health insurance is going to be different too, because most health insurance policies are going to cover you within a certain locale. And then it gets super expensive if you're, as you may have noticed, if you ever had to visit an emergency room when you were on vacation, it gets pricey.
It's changed. So these are all just really good tips just to make sure that you get them covered before your earnest deposit, like you'll have to put up 1%, 2% of the purchase price before that becomes at risk. Because once you get outside of your inspection period and you haven't called your insurance agent and you find out your insurance is going to run you $600 a month or $7,000 or $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month, I don't know the number. I've heard some crazy stuff. You don't want to put your earnest deposit at risk. So you get to the end of your inspection period. I hope you got to the end of all your phone calls.
So insurance,
Look into it.
Yeah, here's the thing. We don't know the answers. That's the point. We're telling you to find the resources to talk to. Now, as an agent in Arizona, if my clients were moving from another state and they asked me, do you have a good CPA? Do you have a good insurance person? I have that to recommend. So that's a good place to start. But other than that, make sure you're reading reviews and doing your research.
And I wasn't, you can almost tell, we were shocked, like it cost so much for insurance. We knew that it was going to be more money for sure. We knew that property taxes were definitely going to be more money in Texas. We knew all that. But until you actually face that bill, I don't think you really sort of absorb it. And I think that's like when you're hearing me explain, well, we had this, we had that. Yeah, it was a little bit of a shock to the system.
Actually, that's funny because our first property we purchased had a mortgage on it. So it was part of the impounds. And I don't think we paid as much attention. Then when we bought the second one, it was cash. So the bill came due on an annual basis.
And it was a bill.
It was a bill. And it was like, oh, by the way, you owe $5,000 today.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's pretty.
Definitely makes a difference.
Wild. I mean, luckily we had made some income from it, and so that paid for it, and then some because it was a vacation rental and we weren't there. But still, you don't want to give that money back.
Yep.
But you have to.
Yep. And speaking of vacation rentals, I do want to tell you, we still have more to go here. Yep. We got a couple more things to talk about, but I want to tease that we're going to be doing in the future an episode strictly about setting up your second home as a vacation rental. Mm-hmm. Or buying a vacation rental as an investment property. But we want to get into that, but we thought we need to keep these as two separate outlines because they're big topics in and of themselves.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. We've had several vacation rentals. We don't have any right now, but over the years we've had several vacation rentals.
Yeah. So another thing, well, we kind of already talked about healthcare and coverage across state lines. Mm-hmm. So really that's going to be the key. Now, obviously, if you're moving from one state to another, that's one set of phone calls. But it's another set of phone calls if you're going to be having a second residence somewhere out of state. So just make sure you're talking to your health insurance agent, not just your property insurance agent.
Talk to your professionals that would be in charge of that little umbrella.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think the last thing to kind of discuss is what happens. Mark, what would you recommend somebody do? I'm putting him on the spot because I don't know that he knows where I'm going with this. What would you recommend somebody do if they're thinking about buying a home, whether a second residence or pick it up and moving completely to another state, but they're not quite sure they want to make the commitment? What would maybe be a good idea for them to do?
Well, you can, do the try it out sort of scenario, also called a short-term rental,
right,
in the area,
or long-term,
or a long-term rental in the area. Mm-hmm. I would recommend going there and thinking, wow, I mean, you go there, you're staying in a hotel, maybe you're staying in a short-term rental, and go back, because maybe the second time you go, it's just not the same buzz. But yeah, I mean, you don't need to necessarily go there and buy. Especially if you're unsure. You're unsure of whether or not you really want to do it. You're unsure of the area. You're unsure of what area to be in. You're really thinking about buying, but you really don't understand sort of the areas of town or whatever it might be. You want to be in the north, south, east, west. You don't really know. You want to be close to the water, not close to the mountain, up to the mountain. You don't want a water haul. You do want a water haul. All these just different variables. And I think the more you kind of absorb the area, then you start getting more comfortable with those sort of choices. And I think what ends up happening, it all gets sort of glaringly obvious. Like you're like, we go, yeah, I got it. This is what we should be doing here.
I agree with that. And, just here's the thing. You have to find, like you said, what's right for you. What's going to work for you, for your, if you're married, for the two of you. If you're solo, then what's going to work for you. But you have to really figure that out. And I do agree that you can't really go somewhere unless you're super adventurous and you're like, hey, we don't, whatever, for a couple of years, who cares? But if you're looking for sort of that retirement community and really to settle in or what have you, I do think you need to go and spend some time. In fact, that's what we did when we went to Texas. We wanted to explore the entire Gulf Coast, and we did. We stayed in three different, but we stayed in 3 different locations.
We did.
And Rockport was the one that we felt was the closest to who we are in terms of, you could get to there real easy and there real easy. We like to go on day trips and adventures and, things like that.
But then I think we saw Port Aransas. And you go, I guess, south, south of kind of that little mecca there, as you go over on the boat,
ferry.
On the ferry, and that little area there is pretty cool. A bunch of restaurants and stuff. But then there's some other stuff kind of south of there too. That's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
We got kind of excited. Oh, maybe we should do something over here, and we just never did. It was more money though.
Well, and
it got more expensive.
It did get more expensive in that area.
And you're getting closer to Corpus Christi.
Again, that's part of the exploration and the fun of it and all that kind of stuff. So if you're looking to maybe try something out, Mark mentioned short-term rental, long-term rental.
Yeah.
But another way to go too is it's possible if you're like, but I know I kind of want to be in this area and we have some different goals, and maybe you're looking to pick up investment properties, then maybe what you do is you're not looking for your forever home. You're not looking for the ideal property where you want to spend years and years. Maybe you go and you buy what would be considered more of a starter home that you're going to live in while you figure the area out, and then turn that into a rental property and buy the one you're looking for. So there's a lot of options.
Yeah, and you're looking at cash flow. Now you're looking at, well, what can this property do? Maybe you're buying a vacation rental in place or a rental in place.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of different options. Again, I think the main reason we wanted to do this episode is it is a topic that comes up, obviously, in our business.
Always.
Frequently. But it's also something we've experienced ourselves as empty nesters.
Yeah, and really, I think we maybe mentioned this, down the road or back down the road that way. People are now sort of looking at vacation rentals. I'm not telling you that there aren't some vacation rentals that aren't just absolute cash cows. They can be. But I think really what people are trying to do now, and you may want to look at doing this, is buy a vacation rental that covers your mortgage. Okay, let's say your mortgage is $40,000 a year. That you get a vacation rental that'll do $40,000 a year to cover your expenses. How cool is that? Now you can go use it a month or 2 a year.
Yep.
Or maybe 3.
Right. And
it's paying for itself. Come on.
Exactly.
And hopefully, maybe it's going to go up in value at some point. Generally, if you look at the timeline over the last 60, 70 years, overall, real estate does about 4 or 5% a year. Of course, we have the valleys and we have the peaks, but when you get it all just kind of measured out, if you could do it over 60, 70 years, it's 5%.
Yeah. A really good point, and a great tease, because our next one will be about the short-term rentals, and we'll dig more into different strategies and things like that.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, overall, hopefully you got some encouragement in case that you're either a regular listener and this is something you've been thinking about doing, or maybe you just found us because this is something you're researching currently. We're glad you were here. We hope you got some stuff out of it.
Yeah, we love this. We love this subject matter. So in the comments, maybe, hey, well, let me ask a question or two, make a comment. Maybe you've had a success story. Maybe you've had a not so much of a success story. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But we're really, really excited that you actually got to this point in the podcast. Bueno. Please hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Alert. like button. And then if you're on, let's say, Spotify or Apple or something like that, if you wouldn't mind giving us a 5-star review. If we're a 5-star review podcast, that'd be super cool. That'd be super keen.
Yeah, otherwise keep your opinion to yourself. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We want to know how we're doing.
Ooh, I like that sauciness. Good job.
And it's a good note to go out on.
We'll see you later. And it won't be long, about a week.
Yep, we've been Mark and Jackie Tate. Thanks for joining us. Pause. I gotta itch my nose off here. And I'm sitting here. I'm like, it's gonna look like I'm picking my nose, but it itches.
Okay, I've got the perfect comeback in.
I don't have anything hanging now, do I?
No.